From thundering war cries to haunting melodies, Viking battle songs were more than just music. They were powerful weapons of war. Join us as we explore how these fierce warriors used rhythm and voice to summon courage, honor their gods, and terrify their enemies. Let's travel back over 1,000 years to understand where Viking battle songs began. These warriors didn't just grab their axes and charge into battle. They had a complex musical tradition that helped prepare them mentally and spiritually for combat. The most famous type of Viking battle song was the skaldic poetry, performed by skilled poets called skalds. These warrior poets would compose and perform songs that celebrated great victories, honored fallen heroes, and asked the Norse gods for protection. Before battles, Vikings would gather in their longships or around campfires, joining their voices in rhythmic chants that helped build their fighting spirit and create a strong sense of unity among the warriors. The skalds held a special place in Viking society as both poets and historians. These talented performers weren't just entertainers, they were the keepers of Viking military history and culture. Each skald had to master complex poetic forms and memorize hundreds of stories about battles, heroes, and the gods. They would travel with Viking war bands, watching battles unfold so they could compose songs about the heroic deeds they witnessed. Their poems used special rhythmic patterns called kennings, creative metaphors that described warriors as sword trees or battles as spear storms. These weren't just fancy words. The complex rhythms and alliteration helped warriors remember the songs and feel connected to their heritage during battle. Now let's examine one of the most iconic Viking battle traditions, the shield wall chant. Picture this: hundreds of warriors standing shoulder to shoulder, their shields locked together to form an impenetrable wall. As they faced their enemies, they would begin a rhythmic pounding on their shields, creating a thunderous beat that echoed across the battlefield. This wasn't just for show. The sound had real tactical value. The steady rhythm helped the warriors move as one unit, maintaining the crucial formation. They would accompany this drumming with deep, guttural chants that grew louder and more intense. The combination of pounding shields and unified voices created a wall of sound that could shake an enemy's resolve before the first sword was drawn. Some historical accounts even describe enemies fleeing at the sound alone. While Viking battle songs were primarily vocal, they did use several key instruments to amplify their war music. The most famous was the lure, a long bronze horn that could produce a deep, resonant blast heard for miles across land and sea. These S-shaped horns were often used in pairs, creating an otherworldly harmony that could signal troops or strike fear into enemies. Vikings also used simple drums made from wood and animal hide, particularly useful for maintaining rhythm during shield wall formations. Archaeological finds have revealed bone flutes and stringed instruments like the tagl harpa, though these were used more for ceremonies than battlefield music. Interestingly, many of these instruments were decorated with intricate Norse patterns, showing how deeply music was woven into their warrior culture. The power of Viking battle songs went far beyond simple motivation. They tapped into deep psychological principles that we're only beginning to understand today. When warriors chanted together, their hearts would actually sync up, beating in rhythm with the group. This physical connection created a powerful sense of unity and trust, crucial for survival in battle. The songs also triggered the release of natural chemicals in the brain, adrenaline for fighting and endorphins to reduce fear. Through repetitive rhythms and shared movements, these songs put warriors into an altered state of consciousness, helping them overcome their natural fear of combat. Modern studies have shown that this kind of group singing actually reduces stress hormones like cortisol, while boosting feelings of strength and confidence. Let's look at some remarkable Viking battle songs that have survived through the centuries. One of the most famous is the Krakumál, or the Lay of Kraka, a death song allegedly sung by the legendary Viking ruler Ragnar Lothbrok. As he faced death in a snake pit, he composed verses celebrating his life's battles. Another well-known piece is the Bjarkamal, a call to arms that warriors would sing before battle. The song tells of the hero Bjarki rousing his fellow warriors to fight, with lines that translate to "Day is up, the cock's feathers are shaking, it's time for slaves to go to work." These songs weren't just entertainment. They were living history books that preserved the stories of great battles and warriors for future generations. The Vikings didn't just sing about battles and heroes. They used their songs to connect directly with their gods, especially Thor and Odin. Before combat, warriors would call out to Thor, the thunder god, asking him to bless their weapons and give them strength. Odin, the god of war and wisdom, was often invoked in more complex battle poems that asked for tactical insight and victory. The Vikings believed these musical prayers created a real connection to their deities. They would weave special words called gulder, magical chants, into their songs, thinking these sacred sounds had real power to influence the outcome of battle. Special instruments like the lyre were thought to amplify these divine messages, their sound reaching all the way to Asgard itself. Viking battle songs weren't just about boosting warrior morale. They were psychological weapons designed to terrify opponents. When hundreds of Vikings began their shield wall chant, the sound was described by survivors as inhuman and like thunder walking on earth. They would start with a low hum that gradually built into a roaring crescendo, accompanied by the rhythmic beating of weapons against shields. Medieval chronicles tell us that some armies would retreat before battle even began, purely from the psychological impact of these war chants. The Vikings deliberately used deep, guttural tones that seemed to come from the earth itself, creating frequencies that triggered fear responses in the human brain. This combination of sound, rhythm, and coordinated movement made Viking armies appear larger and more threatening than they actually were. Let's explore how modern researchers and musicians are bringing Viking battle songs back to life. While we don't have any direct recordings from the Viking Age, we can piece together these ancient sounds using historical texts, archaeological findings, and traditional Nordic folk music. Modern performers use reconstructed instruments like the lyre and tagelharpa, combining them with traditional vocal techniques. They study the complex patterns of skaldic poetry and experiment with different resonant frequencies that might have been used in battle chants. Archaeological discoveries of musical instruments, combined with descriptions in sagas and historical accounts, help create authentic reconstructions. Groups like Wardruna and Heilung have gained worldwide attention for their historically informed performances of Viking music, showing us how these powerful battle songs might have actually sounded. The influence of Viking battle songs still echoes through time, shaping modern military and cultural practices. Today's military units continue the tradition of cadence calls and battle songs to build unit cohesion, much like the Vikings did. You might hear these rhythmic chants during military training exercises or see how sports teams use similar techniques to pump up before games. Norse-inspired music has also exploded in popularity, with modern bands like Wardruna and Heilung drawing millions of fans worldwide. Their performances combine traditional instruments with ancient chanting styles, bringing Viking musical traditions to new audiences. Even military ceremonies often include elements that can be traced back to Viking practices, showing how these ancient warriors' musical traditions continue to inspire and unite people today. Thanks for joining us on this musical journey through Viking history. Their battle songs still echo through time, reminding us of their powerful legacy. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you enjoyed learning about these ancient warrior musicians.